The Lisbon Treaty imports the philosophy and the language of George Bush's war on terrorism into the legal structures and policies of the European Union. Article 28A requires that member states will come to the assistance of other member states if they claim they are combating terrorism. And of course, as we know, the US-led war in Iraq that resulted in 1 million deaths was justified precisely on the basis that it was supposed to be a war against terrorism. We should reject the warmongering philosophies that have been espoused by the United States. We should vote no to the Lisbon Treaty and say that we don't want a militarised Europe, we want a Europe that's based on peace and international solidarity.
My name is Hugh Lewis, I'm the Ballybrack representative for the People for Profit Alliance. One of the main reasons I'm campaigning against the Lisbon Treaty is because I believe that it's an attack on democracy itself. The treaty, formerly known as the EU Constitution, was defeated 3 years ago, in 2005, in both France and Holland. Since the treaty was defeated, it was reworded and changed. The titles are changed. We now have the Lisbon Treaty. Bertie Ahern himself has admitted the treaty is 90% the same in substance as the EU Constitution that was defeated. So even this in itself, the politics of the treaty hasn't changed, and it should have been, and this is attack on democracy. That's why one of the reasons I'm voting against the Lisbon Treaty.
My name is Kieran Allen. I'm an editor of the VoteNo.ie website. I'm opposing the Lisbon Treaty because of the clause which allows the EU to go to the World Trade Organization, do a deal on items such as public services, and when they come back from the World Trade Organization, there is no national veto. And what this will do is, it will take matters out of our control, hand it over to unelected bureaucrats to dictate more privatisation, more outsourcing of our public services. I say vote no and fight for better public services.
We're constantly told that the Lisbon Treaty is going to help those of us who are fighting against climate change. But in actual fact, when you look closer at the treaty, there's a section called the Euratom Treaty, which will ensure that every member state spends more and supports the development of nuclear power. Nuclear power is not a cleaner system of energy. It is, in fact, it produces tons and tons of waste and is a very dangerous form of energy. We should vote against the Lisbon Treaty if we want to see a cleaner and safer Europe, and if we want to see real changes for climate change.
My name is Peadar O'Grady. I'm a doctor. I work in the health service, and I'm advocating a no vote for many reasons. Health is a particular issue that is in the Lisbon Treaty. I think the first thing to say is that we're not getting any information really to tell us that health is in the Lisbon Treaty. A vital article that people can easily look up is Article 188, which says of the Lisbon Treaty, which says that health can now be traded internationally, and the veto which Ireland has will now be watered down. We will now have to prove that if somebody wants to privatise in Ireland, to buy and sell services internationally to multinational corporations like the fraud-ridden Triad Corporation or many of the other corporations now targeting Ireland, we will have to prove that there will be a serious disruption to national organisation of health services in order to resist such a treaty. That power is now being lost to us. So health, education, social services, transport, energy, a whole range of public services, including healthcare, will now be available for buying and selling. The key issue for Ireland is that our government is already privatising our health services. When Fianna Fáil came to power in 1997, we had one for-profit hospital in Ireland, in the Blackrock Clinic. Following the 2002 Finance Act, brought in much like the Lisbon Treaty with no announcement that it would adversely affect healthcare or privatise it. Since the 2002 Finance Act, incidentally brought in by the EU Commissioner for Internal Market, Charlie McCreevy, we now have 7 for-profit hospitals, and another 8 are planned for a total of 15 in the immediate future. So to oppose the Lisbon Treaty, people have been saying just because you oppose government policy, you shouldn't oppose the Lisbon Treaty. The Lisbon Treaty will make legitimate and will make legal what the government are already doing. If you oppose the government in their privatising of healthcare, which has caused chaos in the HSE, you should vote no to the Lisbon Treaty. The HSE is already run by business interests. The HSE board has bank managers, the head of Microsoft Europe, it has the head of a medical equipment company, a right-wing economist and so on. Business interests are already causing chaos in the Irish health services. What the Lisbon Treaty will do is to make sure that that is made legal and legitimate and give the government another reason not to reverse any of these policies. There is a clause in the Lisbon Treaty which says we must upgrade military spending. We must upgrade our military services on an ongoing basis. We would ask that instead we have a clause in a new treaty or any other form of European legislation which says we must upgrade our public services, our health service, our education service. The question and the choice for people is whether or not we back unelected officials in Europe to support the privatisation of our public services, or whether we back the real citizens of Europe who in France and Holland have already rejected this treaty in its constitution form. Do we back the people of Europe, or will we allow the elites to go on making decisions about privatising our health and public services and spending more money on militarism and war? This is the choice facing us. I would argue very strongly, please vote no.